Hey guys, welcome back to 428 Shibuya Scramble. It's DJ your gamer girl signing on. So, last episode, we got another bad ending with Achi, but we ended up getting him to the end. We ended up getting him to the end of his current time block, so now we're continuing with Maria. Well, what do I do now? Do I go to the police? I've actually... What am I supposed to do? I hang my head at a total loss. The necklace around my neck sways idly to and fro. Wait, what? Oh, am I supposed to get... Weird. Okay. There. That was weird. Okay. Eventually, I muster up the energy to start walking around town, heading nowhere in particular. The billboard outside of a department store displays a poster of some female musician. She must be pretty popular because lots of passersby stop to take a good look. I catch sight of little Hana in front of the billboard. She's showing something to a woman there. Some colorful sheets of paper. The woman looks a lot like the musician in the poster. Moreover, I have the feeling I've seen her someplace before. Yeah, everywhere! Where could I have seen her? Man, having amnesia is really a pain in the ass. I have no way of knowing whether I've forgotten something or had no memory of it in the first place. The woman looks through the papers Hana held out to her, nodding approvingly at each one, and I can hear her murmur with admiration. Hana! I wave as I scamper on over to her. As I do, the woman abruptly hurries off. Hey, we meet again, I say. Hana just gives me a bored look. Who was that just now? I asked. I don't know. Hana quickly gathers up her belongings and starts walking briskly away. Oh, hey, wait up! I call out. The girl ignores me. She's moving at a jog now, heading from Spanish Hill towards Koendori. And down she goes. She steps onto Koendori. As she steps onto Koendori, she trips and falls down hard. The contents of her bag spill out on the road. Oh, oops. Catching up to her, I gather some of the fallen pages. What's this? There are poems written on the colored paper. A look of embarrassment crosses Hana's face, and she snatches the pages out of my hands. Don't touch those! Those are for sale! For sale? I'm selling poems that I wrote. Oh wow, that's incredible! She looks surprised by the compliment. Incredible? My friends at school said they were dumb. That's not true. I only saw a little just now, but I thought it was a really good poem. You're just saying that. I've been out here in Shibuya for weeks trying to sell these, but the only person who's bought one was that lady just now. Hana lets out a mournful sigh. Well, what are you out here selling poems for anyway? I thought maybe it'd help pay back our debts. Huh? Okay, that's not something I expect to hear from a little kid. My dad's in real deep, she continues. The topic makes me think of Mr. Yana. It ain't him, unfortunately. Guess today's my day for meeting people mired in debt. And I'm only in elementary school, so I can't get a part-time job. Japan's Labor Standards Act prohibits the hiring of children under the age of 15. For certain jobs within the entertainment industry, however, employers can obtain permission from the Labor Standards Inspection Office for younger children to work, which is how they get kid actors. I'm impressed. She's so brave. She's maybe a little hard to approach, but she is just a kid after all. She's so brave, I just want to give her a hug. Oh, Hana! Oh, is that her? Is that her father? Whoops! I thought Maria was, squealing. I hear a strange wailing. Oh no, honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if he sounded like that with how he is. Startled, I turn around to see Mr. Toyama standing there, tears streaming from his eyes. Hana, I'm so sorry. I had no idea you were trying so hard to... Toyama rushes up to the girl. It's quite the emotional father-daughter reunion. Or at least that's how it looks until Hana slaps her father across the face with her bundle of papers. What was that for? Don't you give me that! I'm sick of all this running around. She delivers several more well-placed smacks with her little craft project. Okay, Toyama says at last. I know you're upset, but I have to ask you for just one thing. Then we can see about getting through the day, yeah? Okay, but just one. I can't help but find this ordinary interaction kind of charming. You two get along really well, don't you, I say? Yep, nope. The two give simultaneous contradictory replies. Then Hana sullenly starts to walk off, with Toyama tottering after her. Such a weird little sight that I can't help but laugh. Well, later then. Oh! Explosion! Further along Koendori, I come across a car on the roadside that's spectacularly aflame. A group of onlookers surrounds it in a confused uproar. It seems almost unreal, like I'm looking at a set for a TV show or something. I stand there, staring into the flames. Huh? What's that? I can see something. The raging heat makes the air shimmer. The scent of dry sand fills my nose. A gust of searing wind tugs at my hair. Where am I? Decaying roads, decaying houses, a decaying city. And the people who live there. People who live. People who live. People who live. There's someone by my side. Someone's with me, watching all of this. It's a girl. The person with me is a girl, slightly younger than me. She says something to me. Ana Izumi. Ana Izumi. Cat's Cradle. That's my voice now. Cat's Cradle? Whose voice was that? What's going on? Who am I talking to? Yeah, Cat's Cradle. I'm showing someone how to do a cat's cradle with string. But who? Who am I showing how to do a cat's cradle? Kanan. The word Kanan echoes in my head. Kanan? I utter the name aloud. The images floating through my mind are beginning to break up and vanish. But I feel like, for a brief moment at least, I'd caught hold of the edges of some of my lost memories. That's right. Kanan. As soon as I say it, I am filled with a powerful sense of duty. There's something I'm responsible for. Something that I needed to do. And if I don't, this Kanan person is going to be in grave danger. Calm down. Just calm down. I'm pleading with myself now, fighting the impulse to take off running. If I did, where would I go? I have no idea what my destination or my goal even is. Please, please remember something. Please, please. I gaze out at the flames, practically praying now. Don't move. A voice hisses in my ear, and I feel something hard press against my back. I don't need to turn around to recognize whose voice it is. I thought you said you didn't have any business with... I did a little thinking, says the man with the cane slowly. About how I might lure out Hitomi Osawa, see? I'm going to use you as bait. Well, shit. Where's Kanan when she needed her? Oh yeah, wait. She was on the ground. And Kano's still at a bad end. Let's continue Osawa, since we fixed his bad ending. And we've been through this part. It's human to yell at people and get angry. Human nature. Apologize when you hurt their feelings. Darling? I opened the door and stepped into the room. The detectives are asking for you. It seems there's been a development. We'll be right there. Osawa and Kajiwara hurried out of the room. And there's a keep out. Okay. Minorikawa? Probably Minorikawa. Alrighty, let's get you... Running along Koendori in pursuit of Miku, Minorikawa heard a cell phone ringtone coming from somewhere nearby. Oh! Suddenly, a massive fiery blast knocked him from his feet. A deafening roar set his head throbbing. What was that? What's going on? He lay in a daze on the ground, trying to wrap his mind around what had just happened. He smelled the foul scent of burning rubber. Then came a sound of quick footsteps rushing up to him. Mr. Minorikawa! A voice called out to him, as if across an impossible distance. Mr. Minorikawa! Was that Miku? He forced his eyes open and saw Miku looking anxiously down at him. Mr. Minorikawa! Miku, those things I said earlier, I'm sorry. I went too far. What are you talking about? That's not important right now. Miku choked back a gasp, and Minorikawa realized he had blood leaking from his mouth. His body wouldn't move, and his mind was reeling. What What happened? Tell me. Miku's voice was dry and hoarse. There was a minivan. It exploded. Exploded? A minivan exploded on a city street. That sounded like a terrorist act. His reeling mind drifted back to the attempted bioterrorist attack on Kasumi Gasaki 2 years earlier. An unoccupied minivan had exploded outside an MPD station, and afterward, a device meant to scatter a dangerous biological agent had been discovered near the subway. With sudden clarity, Minorikawa recalled what Osoa had said earlier. The power balance of the entire world might be at stake here. Could there be some sort of connection between Osoa's warning and this explosion? There was. There had to be. Minorikawa's journalistic intuition told him it must be true. Something terrible was underway here in Shibuya. Police! A man in a suit announced. He crouched beside Minorikawa and gently lifted his head and torso. Hang in there, buddy. Stay with us. The change of position allowed Minorikawa to clear his airway, and he sucked in a deep breath. But as he did, an intense pain shot through his lungs. I think I might be done for. Whatever his intuition might be telling him, it didn't look like he'd ever be able to write about it. But if he couldn't get his words onto the page, the least he could do was tell someone else. With his last act, maybe he could still accomplish something. This is not a bad ending. Maybe I can get an idea as to who I need to do to... Osoa. Kenji Osoa. The power balance of the entire world. As his voice failed, he heard the sound of an ambulance sirens approaching. Paramedics began frantically unloading stretchers. Turning his head, he saw a number of other people who'd been injured in the explosion laid out on the roadside. Amongst them were a woman and a child. Emergency workers bearing a stretcher came over to Minorikawa. Forget about me. I'm beyond helping. See to the others instead. Minorikawa shouted inwardly, but no one heard. Maybe Achi might need to shout Hitomi's name. Does that do it? Well, it didn't mess up the Achi's ending. Thank you. Hitomi, wait! As he ran along Koendori after Miku, Minorikawa heard someone shout out a familiar name. Hitomi? It was a pretty common name. Ordinarily, he wouldn't have given it a second thought, but he remembered that one of the Miss Midoriyama winners was named Hitomi Osoa. That made him curious. A moment later, he heard a cell phone ringtone. He immediately recognized it as an Ayakamiki-san. His reporter instincts tingled. He stopped to take a look around, and one young woman caught his eye almost immediately. He couldn't assume that any pretty girl he saw was Miss Midoriyama. After all, it'd be a little too convenient if he just so happened to run into her now. Still, it didn't cost him anything to ask, "Are you Hitomi Osawa?" He might as well at least check. But to his own surprise, he hesitated in embarrassment. He'd never been too embarrassed to ask a question before. He didn't get a chance to contemplate that realization. A massive fiery blast knocked him from his feet. A deafening roar set his head throbbing. What was that? What's going on? He lay in a daze on the ground, trying to wrap his mind around what had just happened. Behind him there was a minivan, fiercely ablaze. A minivan. An explosion. The first thing to pop into his mind was the attempted bioterrorist attack on Kasumigaseki 2 years earlier. An unoccupied minivan had exploded outside an MPD station. And afterward, a device meant to scatter a dangerous biological agent had been discovered near the subway. In the end, no one had been harmed, but there were rumors that the government had paid the terrorist organization a hefty sum to keep it that way. Right now, Minorikawa was a stone's throw from the Shibuya precinct. Could this be a repeat of the Kasumigaseki attack? The entire area was in a uproar. People were running around in panic. Minorikawa could see several injured people lying on the ground, unmoving. And yet, despite the gravity of the situation, numerous onlookers were casually taking photos with their cell phones. Of course, Minorikawa got to his feet, then went to try to get everyone away from the scene of the explosion. Hey, you guys, get back! There could be another bomb! Minorikawa looked around as he pushed back the crowd. He was getting a strong whiff of a scoop. He needed to write his copy ASAP, but he couldn't just turn his back on the situation now. 2 young men were strolling toward the burning vehicle. They had the look of juvenile delinquents. Whoa, what the heck? Is this for real? Ain't this dangerous? Like, for serious? The pair tried to find an optimal vantage point. Hey, Minorikawa snapped. Don't get any closer. He snapped his arms wide to hold them back. The young man came to a halt, but otherwise paid him no heed. Oh, this is bad. This is for real bad. Think this is a terrorist thing? Yo, get out your phone. Come on. But, like, you think this is a terrorist thing? Dude, shut up. Just hurry up and call Susumu. The taller of the two, dressed in red, was ordering around the blue-clad companion. Huh? The boy in blue huffed. Man, do it yourself. Say what now? Bitch, this ain't no time to get yourself all worked up. Minorikawa stood there, his arms still held wide, getting more and more annoyed at their back and forth. Yo, just make the call, man! The young fellow in red scowled. He wasn't going to back down. Huh? Yo, what difference does it make if I do it or you do it? It doesn't make any difference, so it doesn't matter if you do it. Yeah, I'm right, it don't matter, so in that case, you do it. Look, I'm telling you to just make the damn call. And I'm telling you to just make it your damn self. Oh, enough of this already. Minorikawa opened his mouth to tell them off, but then the young man in red spoke again. Dude, the goods from over at Endo Electronics are gone. You gotta let Susumu know. The name Endo Electronics caught Minorikawa's attention. Huh? Yeah, but ain't that all that Achi dude's fault for getting all huffy at us? I mean, it was Kiryu who told us to go find the Endo storehouse. Yeah, but Susumu don't like dealing in stolen goods. Says it dirties the SOS name. Well, what a coincidence. Looks like these two were SOS members. Hey, Minorikawa called out. You two. He finally succeeded in getting their attention. Where's this Susumu fellow? I'd like to talk to him. He had no idea who Susumu was, only haven't heard the name just now. Still, from the way these two were talking, it seemed clear he held some position of leadership. You think I'd tell you if I knew? The fellow in red snarled. Minorikawa kept his composure. Listen, you guys know the Tenryugumi. The Tenryugumi was a Yakuza syndicate that operated in Shibuya. The street kids were sure to be familiar with the name, if nothing else. I may not look it, but I'm in pretty tight with the Tenryugumi. And maybe you two don't know it, but Susumu's been showing up at their office a lot lately. Susumu's been dealing with the Yakuza? Whoa, for real? Sweet! The two punks bought it completely. What's SOS using as their hangout these days? I've got a little something to discuss with Susumu. Right now, it's this bar called Inferno. Minorikawa made a mental note of the name. Right, and Inferno is where exactly? The two young men suddenly looked distinctly uncomfortable. Later. Yeah, I got a thing to do too. Backing away, they took off through the crowd. Hey, wait up! I need to know where Inferno is! But the pair had already vanished. Ambulances began arriving at the scene, and paramedics rushed out to tend to the wounded. Excuse me, would you mind answering a few questions? Oh, hi Kano. Minorikawa turned to see a man in a suit approach him, flashing his badge. So detective with questions for him, huh? How about you answer a few questions for me? Was this an accident or an attack? We still don't know many details. Let me rephrase that for you. This is a major incident, Minorikawa exclaimed. Huh? The detective looked pretty flummoxed. I've been around the block a few times, and I know all your police PR lingo. And when you start talking about the details, that is 100% indicative of a major incident. Brushing aside Minorikawa's remark, the detective tried another question. Did you happen to notice anything unusual prior to the explosion? Unusual? Minorikawa thought back to the moments before the minivan blew up. Now that you mention it, I think I heard a cell phone ringtone. The detective tilted his head. A ringtone? No, never mind, forget that. There's no way the ringtone on someone's phone would be audible through all of that. Minorikawa struck the thought from his own mind as he said it. In all likelihood, he'd associated the ringtone and the explosion simply because one had happened right before the other. Kano. Oh, it's Stanley. A large-statured Caucasian man had called out to the detective. Evidently, the detective's name was Kano. Thank you for your cooperation, he said with a bow. Then he ran over to the foreigner. Mr. Minorikawa! Minorikawa turned at a female voice behind him. He found Miku standing there. She looked like she'd been crying. Miku, about earlier. He trailed off searching for an apology. It's okay. That doesn't matter right now. Miku looked around the scene. Minorikawa followed her gaze. Something big went down here, he said. I know, she exclaimed. The explosion. I saw it happen with my own eyes. You what? Miku looked around nervously. Are you alright? He asked her. You're not hurt, are you? I'm okay. My ears are still ringing a bit, is all. Good. So what did you see around the time of the explosion? Miku assumed a thoughtful expression. There was this girl who was running toward the minivan. And then I think I saw this other Middle Eastern girl suddenly make a dive for her. And then the van just exploded. Wait, hold on, Minorikawa said. So if I'm getting this right, it sounds like this Middle Eastern girl saved the girl who was running up to the van. Miku nodded. Just then, Minorikawa's phone chimed. He'd received an email. It was from Chiaki. Mr. Mino, are you still working on your copy? He checked his watch. At this point, the 4 o'clock deadline was barely 20 minutes away. Nonetheless, he decided to stay at the bomb scene. He could definitely smell a scoop here, he was sure of it. Even if he couldn't get his 6 pages done by 4, landing the major scoop should be enough to persuade the loan company. Minorikawa jotted his phone number down and handed it to Miku. I'll make things up to you, he said. Give me a call later. Miku took the scrap of paper, puzzled. If you're looking for an Aiki Jujutsu dojo, I know a few. After that, her face lit up. Minorikawa decided to process the scene for clues. As he wandered around, he caught sight of Detective Kano and his Caucasian colleague heading down an alley. What's that smell? Something pretty damn fishy. If they were slipping away for a private conversation, maybe there was some way he could listen in. Minorikawa hurried into one of the buildings that bordered the alley. He looked around and found a public bathroom upstairs on an alley's side of the building. Hoping beyond hope, he slipped up to the bathroom window. Voices outside. He held his breath and listened. Those international criminals you mentioned? Kano's words were faint, but he can make them out. Minorikawa did a faint little fist bump. Correct. Roughly 8 hours ago. They infected Maria Osoa with the Ua virus. Then, they let her loose somewhere in Shibuya. Hold on. By Ua, you mean? The discussion involved some terms Minorikawa wasn't familiar with. He focused all of his mental energy on what the two were saying. This is a killer virus with a 100% mortality rate once it takes hold. 100%? Minorikawa muttered to himself. The shock caused him to unclench the fist he didn't realize he'd made. This wasn't just an interesting conversation. This was monumental. It has an incubation period of 12 hours. In another 4 hours, Maria Osoa will go symptomatic. After that, she'll begin spreading the virus through the city. It's capable of airborne transmit. Yeah, I choked on my own spit. Airborne transmission? If we don't administer Kenji Osoa's antiviral before she develops symptoms. Yes? Everyone in Shibuya is going to die. Minorikawa felt goosebumps rise all over his body. If they were talking about a virus and a Kenji Osoa, then they could only mean that Kenji Osoa. He recalled what Osoa had said earlier about the power balance of the world being at stake. There was no doubt about it. This was a tremendous scoop. Well then, we need to find Maria Osoa and get the antiviral to her as soon as possible. Just calm down. There's more to the story that... it's starting to leak out. The door swung open loudly and someone came barging into the bathroom. Uh-oh. It was Yana. Why him again? And why here of all places? Oh, I'm leaking here! Yana was on the verge of hysterics. His voice must have been audible outside. Kano and his companions went to take the discussion elsewhere. And they'd just been getting to the good part. You son of a bitch! Enraged, Minorikawa grabbed Yana and tossed him to the floor. I'm leaking! Shut your mouth! He put all of his strength into an ankle hold and gave it a good twist. Ah! Yana wailed. Ah! Minorikawa left the idiot blubbering in the bathroom and hurried out of the building. He hadn't heard the whole discussion, but he had a scoop in on his hands anyway. This would be a tremendous score for Heaven Publishing, enough to let the company rebuild. He was certain of it. And if I'm the one saying it, it's gotta be true. He ran along. As he ran along, Minorikawa tried to plan his next steps. First, he had to get back to the editing office. He'd explain the situation to the people from the loan company. Then, he'd go find that paperwork for Osoa and have Chiaki check his copy. Then, after that... Okay, so we still had a lot of things he needed to do. He swatted himself on both cheeks to get himself psyched up. His phone His phone range. Get rid of that E and you're fine. It was Chiaki. Mr. Mino? Something terrible has happened. Chiaki's voice with a broken yelp. Whoa, calm down. Over in Koendori, the minivan exploded. Yeah, I'm well aware. Thanks to that, I've got a big scoop that Chiaki cut him off. Just now, I got a call from Mr. Toyama's daughter, Hana. This time, Minorikawa waited for her to finish. He had a sinking feeling. She said that Mr. Toyama was in there. It was a suicide! Minorikawa was knees buckled. Tell me you're joking. No, I mean, the van explosion is all over the news. And Hana was in tears over the phone and... Mr. Mino? Mr. Mino, are you still there? Toyama had killed himself? Minorikawa felt the energy drain from his body. This is another bad end. Does it have to do with... Oh no, that's a to be continued! Well, shit! So that means Kano has to keep out. So we're going to continue Kano when we come back in the next episode. So, till then, this is the Gamer Girl, signing off. Bye-bye.